Testing 1, 2. Okay, now I've got seconds. Sorry about that. This program has got new changes on it, and it's not acting right. I can't see the numbers here. So, how do I get to see the numbers? Let me see here. Okay, pulled up high enough on the screen. Hey man, remember me? Yeah, you were here yesterday. And I just played around with my computer. I don't know if it's working or not. Hey, Omi, I checked your video. It seems like you're new on Kick and streams a lot. I'm not affiliated yet. Got a personal proposal for you. Will you share your stream to Kick community for you for 1,000 followers? Or no, I don't do any of that. I don't try to fool anybody with how many followers I have. Sorry about that. Well, yeah, I just don't do that. I get asked that almost every third day I'm streaming for the last 3 years. Okay, it's set up. All right, what I'm doing here, folks, that you're new to me, I'm looking for I have looked for the 3-verse or 4-verse format. And this right now, what you're looking at is a 4-verse format where this verse here connects with this verse here to make a sentence. And what you'll see is that I'm using, whoops, where to go? It's supposed to, okay. I'm using 2 major words with the least amount of words I can to connect them. And you can see that's the pattern I do every time I'm editing. Now, what happens is this becomes a small paragraph, but back in their day, they would call that a psalm. And when 2 of them connect together where I have to put a double space between them, you'll see that this becomes a larger paragraph, but this would be known as a psalms. And then they wrote in columns, that should be up over my head here, the verse from Jeremiah. So that's what you're now witnessing, the revealing of the hidden format. So from at least 2,200 years, 2,300 years ago. So, and what I'm doing is I put all the text together that I've done. Let me see here, I'm on page 51. What I've done is I put all these books here together already. This is the books I'm connecting together. And I have Psalms at the very end. So those are the ones that actually tell the story of what of the kings and all the action. The rest of the books don't matter. I did do only the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John because I've been studying for over 30 years this text on my computer. For example, if I show you, let's see what Matthew looks like here. I'll pull that up and let me get this down a little bit. I go over every verse, why I got rid of it, because here's Luke whatever, and then that's the genealogy list, and then here's the genealogy list. I also, when I done my videos, I pointed out this guy never existed. He's only listed as 1 time, and it can't be the 4th generation, and they weren't deportation, they were captives. So that's how I corrected the text. In fact, if you look at 14, this is only 12 to Joseph, but there's so much wrong, but that's what my book looks like, or my editing. Okay, I'll do that, and then I'll clean up the text. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John is the way I did that, and I put all the like stories together, so there'll be one complete story, and you'll be surprised at what I've done and how many days Jesus was in Jerusalem that you can actually count. Now, what I did was I left off, yeah, this yesterday's, I put a bookmark here. I cleaned up all this text up here, got rid of the 8-point editing. So I figured that's my first time going through there and pretty much reordering a lot of things. But I still have to reread it again the next time. Because like this here, this is not spelt right. I haven't done a spell check, but I will fix that later. Right now I'm concerned about making sure the stories are in order and editing the text to smooth them out for the reader. Because when you see any of my probably 400 videos of editing, I've got 700 up, but the first probably 300 are I realized that when I was doing them, I said that it was going to be the last time I'm going to do them because I'm getting rather old, that all of a sudden I realized that by the time I got done with like almost all the books, I realized how good I was getting after I'd done 2 books. I says, man, I've done a lot of things that I didn't do in the other books. So I stopped and restarted. So I will have a complete list of all those books. And that's what I'm doing. I'm recording for history of why I moved or what I didn't move. I'm 68 years old. I know I don't look it, but I am 68. My neighbors go crazy when I tell them I'm 68 because they tell me I don't look over 50. So, well, there's, you could say that, yes, I know the secret to the fountain of youth. So my youngest brother, who's 14 years younger than me, has more gray hair than I got. So mine is just starting on the edges right now. Nothing back in here yet. So, but most other people are shocked when they find out how old I am. I had a guy the other day, I needed a ride up to get my car from the mechanic, and they sent a car for me, and I hop in his car and he says, "Get right in here, young man." And I looked at him and I asked him how old he is. He said, "I'm 51. And I started laughing. So yeah, it happens all the time. So okay. In fact, I've been retired for 18 years. I retired at the age of 50 from General Motors. Of the men who Moses sent to spy out the land, and this has to be a capital L because it's the promised land. And that's the way I designate the difference between lands. Anything that'll be a capital letter will be the land that means promised land. So if you notice, there's no punctuation going on here. They didn't have proper English back then. So this way I'm getting more constructive with it. See, this is the promised land, how I noted it here. So here, I think I should do that the same, keep it that way, because they aren't there yet. So I'm trying to differentiate the difference of at different times when when you're reading it. Because when you do a word search later, hopefully, when you see that, you'll be able to say, I don't want to look at those because that means this means this, so let me look that way. I've tried to really note it in the text that this is our Creator's possession or his promises or his words, with giving him respect by putting all capital letters and coloring them purple. To spy out our land were each from their tribes. The men whom Moses sent to spy out our land were each from their tribe. Then he told them, go throughout it north of Amalek and search the hills. And search the hills. Can I add like search in the hills and search the hills? I guess I should correct that and say hill country, because Moses does call it hill country. So I'm going to add that. And we know what the land is like, that we know what the land is like, and if the people are strong or weak, and how it is the land, is it good or bad, and how are the towns, are they open or fortified, and make an effort to buy some of the produce from the land from time to time. So they went and spied out the land, and the land for the Amaleks as far as Galilee. Okay. Now, whoops, I don't have that up. Get my maps out so it's easier to understand what I'm talking about here. And maps, let's see, this would be this time. I think this is the spies route. Yeah, this is where the spies are going to go out. And I believe from the text, this is where the hill is that Moses is going to stand upon. But right now, the spies are being sent out. I have a new person here. And I'm not good at names, so I'll just call you Jay. Nor Chaluda. You look like Jesus. Well, I follow our Creator's commands, and you're not supposed to cut your hair or your beard. So actually, this has stopped growing, and my hair doesn't grow any longer, and my beard doesn't get any longer. I actually, when I was at work, I was about 25. I told a woman that, and she looked at me and she says, "No way." So she stepped behind me and grabbed my hair into a ponytail and measured it by putting her fist. And one day, about 4 or 5 years later, I'm standing at my desk working, and I feel her measuring my hair, and she says, "I guess you're right." But that's what happens. Split end stops your hair from growing. Call you Nor. Real good. Welcome aboard, Nor. What I am doing is I have found the hidden formats that are hidden, or these are known as the first writer's words. And above me, I will mention the verse in Jeremiah where when the text was written or read to the king, he read the columns, read in columns. So you can see that this is a column. There's 2 formats. This is a 4-verse where these 2 make a larger sentence. And then another group that actually makes a small paragraph. Now what I do is I try to connect 2 words and then the least amount of words between them to make these verses. So that's what you'll see in the construction of them. And then I get another one and I can group them together like a larger paragraph. This is truly what's known as Psalms. This is a psalm. Together, these are psalms written in Psalms. A lot to learn. Let's see. What I had just done was I put up a map because where I'm at in editing this text, I put it all together now, some 24 books together. And I had previously made maps for our Creator's hidden formats because our Creator does have hidden formats. That's another story and another, I got to do another 40, 50 videos on explaining that and going through and talking about why I edited words. But this is the path that's going to be taken. And all these that you see as far as lands, whatever, I've got that by language from our Creator's hidden formats. So when I say the Amaleks were here, there's text here because this river right here, that's going to be mentioned in the text pretty soon. This little spot here is the hill that Moses is going to be on, raising the staff. So a lot to be said what's going on in the text. Well, let me show you something else. I think that's amazing. This is the timeline of all the kings. Well, from Moses's time, there's about 300 years missing. I've got to redo this. I think it's closer to 250 years. And these are the dates and times that I've got in a timeline of who is a king. And then what happens down here on this grouping, these aren't really like this 17 equals this 30. It isn't about that. It's about the relationship that about in this time here, this king starts over here for Israel, and these kings had interaction with this king. And the dates that you see here are the times. The accuracy rate is about 2 years, plus or minus 2 years out of some 400 years that's listed up here. Now that is a absolutely mind-boggling new thing to a lot of people. Here's something what I've done that really shocks people. This is what the tent roof looks like when you change this word right here, bars, to arches, because I counted every board and I know what every board is and where the boards are missing. That's what I did. Like I said, I've been doing this for 30 years, and that's what these make. That's why everybody didn't know what it was, because what is a bar? Well, I had everything but the roof. So when I thought, put this is the hip roof. So that's probably the first time that you're known, but I've been doing this, been telling people it doesn't get around as much as it should. But that's kind of what you're seeing here is the true truths of Jesus being revealed, and all the way back to Genesis. Let's see, I'm gonna put up, oops, if I shut that off, there's the 12 commandments for you to witness. Now there's 12 commandments, but nobody knows that because they never studied the text. They all follow what somebody else said because they're trusting the other people, and that's just wrong. There's so much wrong with the text. Example, here's the 1611 preface. This is the words from your translators. And they called a great clerk Gregory the Divine with a capital D. So when I point that out, that in the Bible, Gregory is the divine, they say, where? Then when I show them that that's who translated the book, said who's divine, they all freak out. But the only thing is this guy ended up becoming a pope, but the guys that are actually editing the text even up to today are not that good. Okay, well, the thing here is the text will say that you have to come to our Creator first, then our Creator will send you to Jesus. For example, what you're seeing here is I'm revealing the true truths of the books. Because if I show you, let me show you how the text, this is my editing of 1977 NSAB, okay? And what it is the blue text I can take out, and I'm not missing much of the verses, but I need to add words that are wrong. When they're in green, I'm pretty much saying this was the intent of the word. I literally have a old Bible software program that does this, that when I click on the word here, it tells me the Hebrew word, and then it tells me down here they use it 1924 times. But this is the real corruption of the text, because if you see here the word so, they have a Hebrew word, but it's over here this word here is being used as so 7 times. Also, they got the words anyone, deadly, reason, steward, storehouses. I don't know how you get the word storehouses out of the word witch, okay? But they did. And I tried to put the majority back together and it didn't work. Now, what you're seeing here when I'm cleaning it up, this is as truthful as I can make the text, okay? And the first thing you should really learn would be in my YouTube video, and I've got that listed under my name right below me right now, there are some, I don't know if because it might be on Kick right now. You might see that there. Because I'm trying that restream program where I stream to the one place and then it kicks it out to 3 places for me. But the last about a week now I've been working with it. It doesn't put my title in, or it doesn't put in the description, even though it's supposed to. So if not, go to YouTube, go to my channel. There is links there that I tell you where heaven is located, why you can't have Jesus as a Trinity, because I'm using Jesus's words to define the word Holy Spirit, and most people will try to tell you what they think is the Holy Spirit, but they don't. So the 10 Commandments, by the way, this is the agreement that our Creator told them they must agree with him in the Sinai, and they're heading to the promised land, that they must obey these. If they don't obey any of these 12, they're to bring a sin offering. So here, that defines the word sin. You'll hear a lot of Christians not understanding what sin is. I'm telling you, our Creator defined the word sin by saying if you don't obey these 12, you're to bring a sin. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Example, the other day I put up a stream about the Shroud of Turin, and that can't possibly be true, because I went over let me see if I can show you what verses, where did that go? Oh, I didn't do that right. The Shroud of Turin, actually a lot of people don't understand. There's verses in the text that tells you that they're wrapped around the body, and let's see, that should be when I want to get it here, right here, the shroud. I moved it. Sorry about that. But anyways, I would show you the verses that Lazarus was wrapped with cloth around him, around his, they had the words hand and feet. You have to change that to arms and legs. And why that is true, that it was wrapped like that, is because you have to understand what the Hebrews knew back then. We found out again in Europe during the Black Plague days, when people were dying so all over the place over there because of the plague. They put them in a coffin and they buried them, and then when the grave robbers come to steal the jewelry or the clothes off of them, when they were putting them back together, they noticed on the top of the lid, or the inside of the top of the lid, claw marks that the people had awakened. And what happened is, back then, when they buried them, they would tie a string onto their finger and a bell. So when they woke up, the third shift guy was put on there for that reason, the grave shift watch. We still use those words today. And when it rings, he would run out there and bring them up out and put them, they're back on life. Well, that's why right now they leave the body in the morgue for 3 days before they pronounce finally dead, okay? Back then they knew that. So they would lay them on a stone slab, which is known as a tomb. And then they would put the body on there, but they would wrap it all up. Then they would put spices around to keep the insects away, so they didn't affect the body. And then they'd roll this great big wooden wheel in front of it to keep out the other animals from going in there. Then after 3 days, they'd check on the body. If it's still dead, then they would put it in the grave. So when you see the Shroud of Turin, you'll notice that that can't be what was used if they're going to lay him there for 3 days. So that's just another false impression from the pagan church. So you stick around here, you'll learn more quicker and faster and more true than anybody else. In fact, go on my website, you can download our Creator's Hidden Formats, and you can go to that PDF, and it's got like 10 pages of links. So you have to scroll down a little bit, but you'll find Jesus's teaching. If you go down there, when you read the story of Jesus, you'll find the true story of where he went. I've got maps showing where he walked, what he did, where he picked up all the disciples. And then there is the story of the last 8 days of Jesus in Jerusalem, from day to day, what happened. So what happened is Jesus does talk to his disciples after he is risen, and he writes about this helper who is coming, and he will bear witness of me, and then he'll do all these things right here. That is me. Jesus prophesied of me, and that's what I'm doing. I'm going to speak and reveal to them what came from him. But this is first person, the text to say from Jesus. And he will respect me and not take mine from me, and declare to them all our Father has done for mine. That means that Jesus was the one who now can forgive anyone on earth to enter into heaven. So it's kind of like you have to understand the prophecies of Jesus way back in the text. And because I've got 30 years here, let me show you here. In Genesis 17 verse 6, and this is when Abram's name is going to be changed to Abraham, and he tells him he's going to be a father of a multitude of nations, which means 12 nations, which are actually 12 tribes. And then he's going to say that, and kings shall come forth from you. Okay, we're going to point out who is this king, but it's got to be make nations of you or from you is what it should be. Down here in 18:18, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. And in him, who is him, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. Well, this we don't know about until David's time, when David is going to build our house for our Creator, a permanent house instead of a tent for meeting. And then this promise to David, through your son's seed will come a king, and I will make him his kingdom in earth, or his kingdom in heaven forever. And then it says down here, again, all the nations of earth shall be blessed because you have obeyed me. So all this, everything that starts from right now, why we enter into heaven, is because how good Abraham was willingly to kill his son, Isaac. And he says, stop, and these are the things that are going to happen. So when you look at who is most righteous, the word righteous, you'll find Abraham was most righteous. Now we know Noah was very righteous. We know Abraham was very righteous because he starts this promise with our Creator over all these like 800 years or more. Then Jesus comes along, and he is the highest male from earth. that obeyed our Creator the most. So I didn't know that. I own these copyrights, so nobody can be doing what I'm doing. I'm actually registered with the Library of Congress, being able to use word for word from a Bible, and they can't do nothing to me. In fact, back in 1995, when I received the official stamp certified from the Library of Congress, I actually sent a notice to them if they wanted to challenge me in court. And that's the place in Grand Rapids, Michigan, that makes the New American Standard Bible. And from then on, all the Bibles you see, they have them broken into different paragraphs, different stories, or whatever. Because, see, anybody can steal the copyrights from them by using word in order for everything, but if you put it into a different style. And that was the loophole I drove a great big semi through. This is known as a different style. So I'm pretty sure he doesn't do what I'm doing here. If you know his name, I would appreciate it, because I'd like to find out and stop him from doing what he's doing. Because, example, I did the 4 Gospels, or 4 books, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Oh, I see, just trying to figure out something like this. Okay, well, I'll tell you what you can do. You can tell them to go into Daniel and try to make the shortest sentences he can and put them in a group for, like, this is like a small paragraph. And what he's going to find is all Daniel turns into a 3-verse format, and it is the easiest text to actually find out this format. He could also take any of the first 8 Psalms and do the same thing, but he will find out that a lot of words are useless. He doesn't need to use them at all. But that's me. I started back in, I think it was 83, that I was reading the Bible, and I realized that there's 2 verses out of order in Psalms 78. Yeah, send them here to witness what I've got, because this is prophecy. I'm the helper. I can say I'm a prophet because all prophets point to Jesus. And I'm definitely pointing to Jesus for everybody from my life forward. That when you see how easy it is to read and all the crap that I've taken out of the text, it's just mind-blowing. My family still doesn't understand what's going on. An example, a verse like this, I could go on and talk probably 20 minutes of what's in these small little words and why they are and what they mean and how come and all this. My mom once asked me for just one sentence, and I think I was talking for more than 30 minutes. She just looked at me, she says, all that is in that little sentence? And I said, yes, but you had to understand what the words were saying to understand, and then you had to understand the behind of the words behind the words. So, but, okay, here's an example. Everybody hears the parable. Jesus says, he says, a camel can go through the eye of the needle more than the righteous or the rich. And what Jesus is implying in his parables is about how he is going to treat others to enter into his heaven. The needle is his. The sharp point is the no, no, and the eye of the needle is yes, yes. So whatever he says can happen to enter into heaven, and if he rejects you, it's a no, no. So that you now know the answer to what Jesus meant when he was teaching that parable. So you'll learn all kinds of things here without a doubt. It's going to take me probably, I'm thinking, another 3 weeks before I'm going to have this text ready to be put as a PDF on my website for everybody to download. So bookmark my web page and you'll see it put up there someday, or keep an eye on here. And I stream an awfully lot. I was streaming twice a day for weeks on end, unless my dad passed away. He went into a nursing home and I had to pretty much not doing video much, so I stayed with him every day. So, and what was funny, he was like 96, and I kept teasing him from time to time that, well, you're older than Moses, and now you're even got something in common with David. And he says, what's that? And I said, well, you're always you're covering yourself up with 3 blankets. I'm wrapping you up 3 blankets, and it's in the down here in Florida. We have the air conditioning on at Christmas time, and he's can't keep warm, and we got the heat in there next to him set at 80. And when you read the text about David had the same problem, that they put blankets on him but couldn't keep him warm. And what I found out is that my father died of just being old age, where your brain starts telling you to stop eating and sleep more. And that's what would happen when I kept going in. He would sleep all the time. When he would be there, sometimes he'd be with you, sometimes he doesn't know you. And then it just kept getting that he was sleeping longer, and then he passed away. And that's what happened to David. They couldn't keep warm. So I now know David passed away from old age. So a lot of little things happen in my life. These words now mean more than what they mean. And that one really was there. Example. Well, I don't want to get into that part, but if you have any other questions about, can I call you? You can't call me Father. There's a warning against that Jesus tells us that only our Creator is our Father. You give all titles to Him to honor and respect our Creator. Okay, here's what I told the guy at work. Because now this guy was like 45 years old when I told him this. Now he grew up in a church. He did the Sunday school teaching when he was younger. He worked all the way up that he is the head of the church. In their church, he was the one that hired the pastor to come in and teach. And he noticed how every time I would talk about the Bible, I could really talk about it. He says, man, I don't know how you know all them stories and in detail, because I've been doing this all my life, and you're pointing out things that I read, but I didn't realize. And I says, I'll tell you what you do. And this is what I'm going to suggest to you. All you have to do is, before you go to bed, you should just talk to our Creator. The first thing I want you to do is go time yourself, okay? This is what I told him. Time yourself, how long and how much you know about our Creator, and just talk slowly, but so you're concentrating and not looking at the clock, and keep going until you realize you're starting to repeat your words. And then look at the clock and say, okay, that's the time. And I told him in 3 months, if you just talk to our Creator at night, and then go time yourself, you're going to be surprised that your time is almost going to double. And then you have to realize who taught you all those extra words. Because I told them that's what happened back in their day before there was a book to read or anything. They talked to our Creator. He come to me about, he come up to me and says, Mike, I couldn't wait even over 45 days, but I went and timed myself. He said, I talked for 15 minutes. And I said, the first time was only maybe 5 minutes. And I says, how you feel that you got a personal person teaching you what you're supposed to know about our Creator? Our Creator personally was telling you, teaching you, just by you talking to Him, because that's what He wants to know, is your heart. See, a lot of people think they have to search a book and read it. And that's just not true. That's just not true. It's the conversation you have with our Creator. And then, yes, our Creator made me see him 8 times. So there's a video in YouTube side that talks about proof of afterlife. If it is easy enough for a 13-year-old male to do what I'm tell you in that video, and if you do what is safe, you only need to take 1 trip. But if you take 3, you're definitely going to know that you'll have self-proof of afterlife, because you're going to visit another dimension of time and space. You're going to find out that in your REM state, your soul is actually in another dimension of time and space. But when you're there under this practice, what I lay out, you're going to remember every single thing that happens. And I'm pretty sure it's like you're going to be under this state for 2.5 hours, but in that time, it'll only feel like maybe 20 minutes. But the thing here is when you wake up, you're going to say, now, I remember everything what just happened. It's self-proof of afterlife. And when you do that, I guarantee you that you will be talking to the dead, and they will tell you that they lived on earth, and they are now the gods, okay? What I tell you in that video is under the Asian practice that they have over there, that they don't lay down and sleep. The Buddhists don't do that. They sit and meditate every day, but they have to be, they only start meditating, I think, at like from 9 to 1 o'clock, and then they're awake the rest of the whole day. But it takes 10 years every day before they actually have a visitor. But at the end of 25 years, every night they're talking to these beings, and that is their proof, their self-proof that there is life after death. Okay? So this is a shortcut, and actually when you do that, you're definitely going to have more proof. And in fact, you'll probably have new words that you never thought you would ever have before in your head. And all those new words, if you say them truthfully, our Creator is teaching you those, what you experienced and how much you now have a witnessing that nobody else out there has. Although I know others have been doing this for quite some time, but that kind of sets me out from among everybody on earth, that video, that if you do it, I'm sure that when females read it, they'll be able to do the same thing, but they'll be have to have other females around them when they do that, and they'll have to probably pull a string on a finger. So just a small movement, and then they'll be instantly there, wide awake, and know everything for the next 3 hours. So, but there's a lot of drugs, but this experience is no. This is let's put it this way: the Asian world is way past the knowledge of what's in the West about afterlife and how to live long. They're actually learned how to meditate, to have sex with a female goddess, to actually live a very long time. And it depends on the secret practice, because there's hidden practices on top of hidden practices. But some males can live, back in Jesus' time, 1,000 years of life was average. And So when you're reading the text that says Methuselah was so old and Enoch was so old, well, I know who put that text in there, okay? And if you read this, the 1611 preface, they tell you right there, the Roman Catholic Church will tell you that they didn't know who had the books for 100 years. Somebody from Asia came over because Jesus made news that it spread over there, that there was a guy healing people just by words, and they couldn't believe that. So when they came over and they looked at the text, they said, we're going to change it to mean our practice. And so they wrote a lot of things in there, and then they handed it back to them, but they had already corrupted the text when they give it to them, because the manuscripts that are written before Jesus's birth, you'll find that the manuscripts use the word mountain. There are no mountains in Israel, and yet they'll say over 300 times there's this mountain in Israel. So, but this is all up in this little tiny's head. So you ask away, and I will help you out as much as I can, because this is going to be... Is any play? Well, if you click on any of the videos the last maybe year, which is probably about 200, so just scroll down to any one when you go on there, just click on it, start it, stop it, then go in the description and read there, because those that are down there, when you read, like, where's the location of heaven from earth, I go into great detail. I show you all 39 Bibles and what they did to the text, but the New American Standard is the only one that tells you. Psalms 48 verse 2 says Mount Zion is in the far north. So when you think about what is the far north, is the North Star, and the motion of the stars makes this mountain. That is the second heaven. Heaven is located above the North Star. So when you read the text say Moses raised his staff to heaven to ask our Creator for a plague, now you know where he's at, and you got a visual. When Jesus looked to heaven and asked our Creator to feed the people, a blessing, that's where he turned and looked, because when our Creator was ascending, that's where he would ascend to, in front of the people. Now, the thing here is where the birds fly in our heaven, this is known as the third heaven. And if you do a search on BibleHub.com of third heaven, you'll find that's written in, I think, 1 Corinthians 37 or something like that in there, or chapter 3, some verse, and you'll say that he was caught up and do not know where he went. That's a lie what they're doing, but they knew it was the third heaven. Now there is another existence that they knew about, and that was beneath the earth. Now, and there's a space down there, you might have heard of it as the underworld, the Netherland, but when our Creator talked to Cain about Abel's death, he said, he's calling to me from the ground. Now, you have to understand the terms that they used back there in their knowledge. When they called it land, it was what you could see on the surface. Underneath there was the ground. So like under a river, they could still see the ground, or see the land. So they seen the land under the river. Okay, and then there would be ground underneath that. But our Creator said, called from the ground. The text should have been from under the ground in this abyss. They call it Sheol a lot, but when I study the word Sheol, it's kind of like a city that they're meeting in, and I've been there. When you go there in that self-proof, you'll realize that there's just beings floating around in a deep, dark, black emptiness. And our Creator tells us from the text, I can't remember what book, but he tells us that it's the deepest, darkest prison ever. So, but when you visit it, you'll be back, and then you're going to say, no, I know I'm going to live there forever. Now I got to make the decision. Am I going to be with our Creator, or am I going to be without our Creator? And the more you come to our Creator, He'll send you to Jesus to find how you get to heaven. So that's Jesus's words. You have to come to Him to be sent to Jesus. And then once you're sent to Jesus, you're His. You enter into heaven. And you'll find that when you're saying, well, why around the whole world everybody doesn't know all the text and every word in it? But there are high moral people all over the world that will enter into heaven. Jesus also talks that heaven was created for the children. And that's because children don't live that long. And that's because our Creator's already kind of like, they don't need to go through all the struggles and the burdens that we go through to enter in, or to die and then enter into heaven or into hell. He's already assigned them we see it as punishment upon the parents that their child died. Well, you got to realize everybody's going to live forever. And those that are children, when they're dying, they're going right straight to heaven. So if you're going to live forever, what's short life of even 20 years, they're still going to go to heaven. So when I talk to God, should it be before sunrise? Actually, you can talk to Him at any time you want, okay? And I'll give you some news here. The word God is a title. Okay, it's not His name. So let me show you what I've done here. This is the Strong's Dictionary Hebrew word. This is the only letters that we have about our Creator's name. This is the name in Hebrew. And he tried to put up the word Jehovah here. Well, when you study the Hebrew language, there's no O, J, or W in the Hebrew language. So all the time you see like 1,096 times is the single letter O in the Bible. You just need to, that's all wrong. You can tell somebody's adding it. But when you study the Hebrew text, they'll tell you that the H on the end is usually silent. Okay? So I use these two letters when you see me editing. If you go to the Hebrew making sounds of their vowels, if you type in the letter Y and you hear it pronounced and then the letter V pronounced, you can see that it's almost exactly this word right here. I say Yahweh, or I'll say YV. Yahweh is how they pronounce these two letters. So this would be His name. I would suggest that you use the title Our Creator or Our Father, so you're a little bit closer to Him, because His name has been so corrupt. It's hard. I know when I'm using it, I feel like I'm still insulting Him when I'm saying it, because I'm just trying to do the best I can to get this text back the best it can be done. So the title, I use Our Creator a lot when I'm talking to people. So, but the title God is not... It was used in the text, in the Hebrew text, as to mean that was their belief. They had God or gods to act as people of, or like a creator of something, or a ruler over how people act or get along. But they knew His name, so they would be saying, our Creator is not like your God. And your God surely is not like our Creator, because we walk and talk with our Creator. We've had men since Abraham's time and Noah's time talk to a male individually, face to face. And if you study if you go into like any college setting and they're starting to teach you, they'll say the God of Abraham is different than all the other gods, and that means the God of Abraham is the only one who speaks face to face. Okay, I can do that for you, but I'm going to have to show you some things here that have to explain as I go. Okay, there's people on earth that sit and meditate to have sex with a female goddess. In Malachi 2:11, this is Judah the nation has married the daughter of a foreign god. That makes this word a goddess, married the goddess of a foreign god. Okay, and the way to do this is sit in darkness. So a lot of times in the text, if you go on BibleHub.com and just search the words sit in darkness, that's what they're talking about as they're doing this practice. The Hebrews wrote it as harlotry, where everybody thinks, well, that just means adultery, and they got that wrong. The text harlotry means meditating, and you're having this sex practice in your head, your adultery in your head. Here in Jeremiah, it talks about it as the queen of heaven, and then you can see all these people, kings and princes, they aren't princes, but royalty of the family, they were all starting to do these things to worship and honor them, and they were making their vows to the queen of heaven. This is actually the moon goddess, okay? Now, I'm going to show you some ancient pictures here. This is Ra, the sun god, and this is the daughter, the moon goddess. You can see, though, this is a picture out of the Bible from the 1850s or 60s that I had at one time. And you can see that moon there. This is Athena in Rome, that you can go see this goddess and how she's tied together. When you have this practice, you control your one-eyed snake between your legs. So this is what he's talking about. They were trying to figure out how not to lose their seed at night when they aren't sleeping, or when they're sleeping, just coming out. What happened is once a year, under their practice, a male's maleness retracts inside his body. Okay, this is in the Vatican building on the corner of the thing, and you can see he's got an animal body. This is known as hind feet in the Bible. Now, this was Super Bowl time at the year 2000, where they literally had the female goddess rise above in the sky, and all these things that were under here were actually the chemicals. They were walking around dressed in costumes, but I understood it was the chemical elements that they knew that were caused in the body under this practice to cause this. A female, when she's doing this, her rosebud becomes like a sword. It's flat and thin, about 1.5 inches long. So that's what this practice has been. This is known as mankind, half man, half beast. Okay, so now you know what the word is mankind. And if you've seen this symbol here from Egypt, this has been going around. This is from the Samaritans had wrote this, which was before Babylon was actually established. But the only thing is this is like, let's have a conversation over this, how we do this, okay? So, I got one more picture to show you here. Now, the Buddhist or Tibetan guys, this is when they want to die, there's this bubble that goes around their body, and what they'll do is they'll sit there, and when this happens to their body, they shoot it out the top of their head, and their body remains immobile right there that they died. This is the Tibetan practice, and this is what these pictures are about. You're alive, then you're dead, but you released your soul. And then I've got a picture up here of this guy sitting here. Now they're treating him like a god. And what you're going to see here, is that he burst a hole through his skull before he died. That's how powerful that energy is. If you want to know about that energy, what you'll do is think from your head down your arm to your fingers and go back and forth real slow, and you'll feel this like on an arm. It's like a ball around your arm, and you'll feel that as energy. This is what they've done and figured out thousands of years. In fact, before the Great Flood. So these are the guys that have been in charge of all the editing of the text. Example, I showed you this from here, the translator's preface from 1611. They wrote that lastly, the end reward of the study thereof, and that means the text that you're going to read, is just to have a fellowship with the saints and a participation of the heavenly nature. Now, I know our Creator exists. They didn't. They think there's such a thing as a heavenly nature, and yet our Creator created everything. So, and it's not to have this immortal, undefiled, and it shall never fade away. Whatever the hell this means, I do know what it means, but when you read it, you don't know what it means. But that's your reward for reading the Bible. And what you think is that I'm supposed to become closer to Creator so I can go to heaven. So that's the problem here with the text. In here, it's really unique to see this, because this is going to be at Rome's time. The first Roman emperor, he corrected the calendar in the order of the year to the course of the sun. Sun is capital S. That's Ra, the sun god, they're honoring right there in the text. Okay? So this has been going on a long time. Actually, all you have to do is talk to our Creator, because the title Christian isn't strong enough. You want to say, I'm a believer, our Creator exists. That way, when you read some of the text, like, say, David went and cut off the 200 foreskins off of men so he could be married to Saul's daughter, you know that that's too far out for me to believe that. But some Christians think every word in the Bible is true, and it's not. They've destroyed the manuscripts, because this manuscript that's in Egypt, this is on papyrus paper, which is pretty much what they used back then. This is 4,800 years old. Look how clean this stuff is. I mean, they've got this in the Smithsonian Institute of Art. Now, sure, there's stuff missing, but that means the original text we should still have, okay? But they didn't. They destroyed them all, and they started rewriting. And so when they say they have the manuscripts, they threw away all the other books from that time forward to say that we're going to be in charge of our practice in this book. So you're learning about a lot of things here. So here in the Bible, there are 3 goddesses for the moon goddess right here. So if you talk to somebody from Islam and you talk about the 3 daughters of the moon god, a moon goddess, this is it right here in the Bible. But why would people because okay, now that's a real good question. Because I told you that they had a witnessing themselves of having to have this meditation practice, to have sex with a female goddess. And if they meditated for 10 years, they would start knowing that they have this way to enter into heaven. They had no way to say that some guy that has died on earth in heaven, and if you believe unto him, he's going to just bring you into his heaven, and you're going to have life forever. So it's actually the conversation of salvation. We have a Savior. It comes from the word salvation. So there's text in Isaiah about this conversation that they have about salvation, that you believe that way, we believe this way, and that's been the fight, because you guys get to see this and know this, and a lot of times their practice makes them youthful and live for 100 years easily, where everybody else on the Hebrew side, there's 85 at the most. The text will tell you, like, Moses was like 98 years old when he come back, but he couldn't come back to Egypt at that time, because when you're there in the Sinai, I just edited the text, they had to have men counted from the age of 20 and up to go to war. So if Moses had left for like 60 years before he come back, they would have killed off a lot of the sons. So the thing here is the numbers in the Bible you cannot trust. You have to understand the stories. The video that I point out about Jesus not walking on the water, and you hear everybody's really hyped up about that. The text says there's two stories. One story doesn't tell you what the other story does, and that says there was whitecaps battering their boat and slowed them down, okay? Because, let me get a map here to show you why there was whitecaps and had to be slowed down. Where is Jesus crossing, walking on water here? Oh, I went past it. Okay, let me get to Jesus' text here. Okay, here it is. This shows you that Jesus was somewhere over here. Now this is a 10-mile lake, from here to here, 10 miles. So when he went over here, the wind was battering the boat and these waves were on it. And Jesus, they said, come walking on the water. But the story is, the disciples said he is a ghost. And what do ghosts do? They glide over the water. So Jesus glided over the water. He didn't walk on the water. Okay? That's how you need to get the story right. But you realize that this here is only going to be 2 or 3 miles. When I was a kid, I lived on a lake for like 5-6 months a year when I was little, and you can row 2 miles very quickly, within an hour and a half, maybe or less. But when you got whitecaps coming against you, or rough water, yeah, you're really fighting against it. You ain't gonna go very fast. But then he come gliding over the water. But in that video, I go over every text and tell you why and why not. But that's, when you look at it and measure it on the map, that might be 2.5, 3 miles that this is happening. So it has to be that there had to be slowed down with whitecaps, or they would already been there before Jesus set out for them. So that type of thing. But why would people write these holy? They really aren't holy scriptures. What you're seeing here is the first writers' hidden formats that are telling the truth of the witnessing and the events that they witnessed with our Creator as him leading them out. They were witnessing the plagues. Example, when they had built the tent for meeting, they built what the text says ark, but it's actually just a chest that Moses put the 12 commandments in. And then there was going to be 2 angels at the end and they're going to be not on the chest. They're going to be on the end. They're supposed to be looking to each other with their hands going forward, and they're holding on to what's known as the mercy seat. And above the mercy seat is where our Creator is going to talk to them as the priests come in and ask for forgiveness. Our Creator was appearing as a light, okay? Apologetics, but I must retire for the night. Okay, real good. Stop by again, Nor. That's what I'm here for, to help you out. So I hope you tell that other guy to come over and take a look at some of the videos that I do. But you have a good night. Good talk to you. All right, now I had corrected the word hill country, and I better put it on the text so you guys can see what I'm doing. Bring it up a little bit easier for you guys to read, because I know that some people read this on your mobile phone. So then they told them go throughout it north of Amalek to search. That's, see, when I read it again, north of Amalek to search the hill country, that we know what the land is like, and if the people are strong or weak, and how is the land, is it good or bad, and how are their towns, are they open or fortified? Yeah. Which means that they would have put logs as like a fort going around them, or they would have had large chunks of tree roots that they would have used to block you to come in there to charge. Because they were trying to keep out the animals pretty much, or they just live openly. And make an effort to buy some of the produce from the land from time to time. So they went and spied out the land, from the land for Amalek as far as Galilee. And I showed that. That's Galilee, but let me see. I had already. Where is it? Oh, back here. Recently opened. Well, Abraham. Nope. Okay, I showed so many images that I gotta go find it, so I think I better just get on with what I'm doing here. And they were gone for 20 days. The Hebrews wrote in 2 words. They didn't have the multiple words that we have today. So for 20s, or for the number 20, they'd write 2 and 10 days. 2 and 10. Yeah, I can get rid of this. That would be 2 and 10 days. And when they returned from spying out the land, they went to Moses, and he summoned the commanders for the tribes for Israel, for them to hear their words. And they told all of them, they went into the land, and wherever we went, it had springs, and it is plentiful. However, the people living in the land are stronger and have weapons. This was a word that was added in the 1977 NSAB, so I need that. And that should be italic. And they are bigger than us. First are the Amaleks living in their land, and in the hills, in the hill country, the hill country are Canaans, from the sea to the river. Now this is a 4-verse being changed to a 3-verse, but that text actually goes to a 3-verse. Now, what I have learned is this is how they would change subjects. So when they were looking, they would say, this is one subject I got to read or teach from, and then this will be the next subject and read from. So it's done on purpose this way. Then Caleb quieted the spies, and before them he said, we should by all means take possession of it, for we will surely overpower them. And the spies said, we are not able to battle them, for their males are too big for us. And what you see is I've gone to another chapter. This starts chapter 14, and this was chapter, 17. So when I moved the text here, it was from a different chapter, but you can see that this is actually sewed right together with this, a 3-verse format, and you're going to see that these two group together. That's why I've got the space here. Now the commanders grumbled at Moses, we are all to die in this land, and our wives and children become their plunder. Then they said to one another, let us return to Egypt. Then Caleb the son for Simon's ripped his clothes and spake to the commanders, the land we spied out is better land. If Wivey is pleased with us, is pleased with us, then, well, he will give it to us, and the land is plentiful. Do not rebel against Wivey, and do not fear him. Then Wivey told Moses, these commanders do not trust me despite my plagues and the parting of the Red Sea. Now to understand that means that the events for the plagues, they knew the seasons well, that they knew this was extra large events happening and things that could possibly be there. They'd have a hard time explaining the water in the river turning to iron-rich water where it becomes like a dark irony look, not red. But the water is foul. It doesn't taste good. I've actually, in Michigan, there's known as White Rapids up in the upper Michigan. I've been there to all those places taking pictures. No, you don't want to taste that water. That is not good, but you'll see it coming over like the waterfalls, and it is just brown. Because of the iron ore in the mountains or in the hills up there. In the parting of the Red Sea, see, the parting of the Red Sea they couldn't explain, but they all of a sudden don't believe that he was doing this. Moses replied, pardon these men for their weakness and forgive our people. Then Wivey said, I will pardon them, for Caleb trusting me, the land he spied, his descendants will possess it. And I'm doing a spell check later. But what happens there is you can see that that's why Simon is in the middle of Judah here. Now, what's neat about this map and to understand, or these layouts of the tribe's lands, our Creator told them to camp around them, or what's known as a congregation where all the tribes come together. When they were coming into the promised land, they literally camped around our Creator's tent for meeting in a specific order. 3 of the oldest would be in the south side and the 3 youngest in the north side, and this is going to be Joseph here. So then you see 3 here, and you got 3 here. Oh no, that's 3, and then there's 3 here. So this shows that they actually give them the land the way they were supposed to congregate around our Creator, tent for meeting or house for meeting, like at Solomon's time. Now you will command them, they are to enter the land, for I promised it to their forefathers. Now this one verse out of all the text out of 15 got moved here. Because otherwise I'd have like part 1, 2, or 3 here, and I don't. This was all the words that I found in Numbers chapter 15, and it goes like it belongs here, which a lot of time is surprising me. But yeah, this text is scattered throughout. Okay, but the story is being put together, right? So I'm trying, this is how I sew them together and know that it's right. So is this the next story? I think it is going to be. So let me get that closer. See how I did part 1 here for Numbers here? So from their rivers, Moses, okay, from their rivers. And I just was talking about that, about Amalek's. Here. When it says from their rivers, okay, this way. But nobody really lived in here, it's the Sinai, so that's why I assigned it. But from their rivers, okay, that's how I determined if it's their rivers, it has to go from here to here. Today, this is known as the River of Egypt. So this was the actual boundary line for the kingdom of, for the kingdom of Egypt was all the way up here. So, but the text, like I said, when I'm putting this together, those words right there. So what I do here, where is it? Here. I want to make sure I put a map here. Map goes here. So, and I guess I should have the same map. Here. Okay. So people have guidance when they're doing this. Okay. Sent messengers to the ruler for Amalek's, and they said to, and his name is missing, we are your brothers from Israel. Now, when it says brothers here, a lot of people do not know that Noah, where he landed, is in this area. This is my best guess, because this is Shem's land, the 3 sons of Noah, and then the second would have been Canaan's, and then the next would have been Japheth's. So as they were growing, they divided the land, and it has to go birth order correct. So these are the descendants from Japheth, because Canaan pushed them out down a little farther, because you can see that here's the salty lake. I will not call it the Dead Sea. And you can see it's below here is Amalek. So they pushed them down here. That means the Philistines are really Noah's descendants. They might have been from Japheth's, and I'm thinking that's pretty true, because they said this is Canaan's now. Canaan took them and pushed them out. So now We are your brothers. So this is important from Israel, the male Israel. And you know our history. Now, Wyvie has brought us out from Egypt, and now we are by your rivers that are the borders for your land. So again, the borders for their land. So I'm going to probably correct that map by having that information. And I'm going to gather that later. I'm going to do the text, and as I do it next time, I will probably start adding some maps, looking purposely for maps and items. I'm going to have somebody draw up everything that's in the text here to have visuals. We will not pass through your fields or through your vineyards. We will not drink water from your wells. We will pass by on the highway. Now that's very important to know about what the highway is. Whoops, I don't have it on here. Well, it's this red line here, but that's just part of it. When you look through where the rivers are at, how they join, this line here, even though it's dividing the tribes up, this road right here, when I did this map, this is geologically graphic, and I tried to go around, not going up and down hills, made it the easiest path to travel the fastest without struggling, easy on families as well. But this path that goes all the way through, all the way down here, comes down all the way down to here, Bethlehem, and then I figured that they turned right because down here it's going to start turning into the desert. They needed water, so I had that. This is known what is the highway. So at Amalek's time, they had a highway going through here, okay? So I've got to note that as also to be made on the map and correct that and show that the map where they did travel. So I've got a better map now under this text of where Joseph went, the path he took to Egypt. And not from it until we passed through your land, the king replied, I want to know it's gone. So I noted that his name is missing, so I can put their king replied, and I'll get rid of this. And I'll say, I'm adding that, but this is a major word, so that's going to go yellow right now. You will not pass through us, for we are coming to you with our swords. Okay, that sounds like the correct story. That gets sewed together. When Amalek came to battle against Moses, okay, now the story we went from, was it Numbers? Numbers? We jump all the way over to Exodus now. In Exodus chapter 17, part 2, we find these words. So, when Amalek came to battle against Israel, Moses told us, our army will battle against Amalek, and I will stand on the top of that hill with my walking stick. Then, as I raise it, we will battle them. Then, as I raise it, we will battle them. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave the comma in there. And I'm using this as a major word here and over here, or sometimes I would use this as a major word. But these two words must exist in the verse. So Moses and Aaron went up and stood on the top of the hill. When Moses raised his walking stick, Israel battled them, and Israel. Now this is the nation Israel, so it's got to be all capital. And it looks like in Israel, I'm going to change that to went out to them. So this, I got to make black. Come back here and say I'm adding this. I'm going to add this new, and I'm changing this. Israel went out to them, and Israel battled Amalek's army with our spears and shield. Now, the word spears, why did I do this? Because they just come from Egypt and they weren't having any battles, but they had knives that they could, kill the animals so they could eat and stuff like that. So they had to have a knife, and they just put them on the end of the sticks. So this is why I got the word spears there. Now we're back to Numbers. This, by Amalek's refusing to allow Israel to pass through their land. So Israel turned away from them and set out to the mounts. I had to put mounts here, but if you notice that path, oops, this is the path where they were battling, okay? So here, by the way, this land is going to be known as the Nebuchadnezzar, if you're paying attention there. This is where they fought them, and then they couldn't pass. So they had to go to get water from one word to the other, because you got 500,000 people minimum following here, women, children, everybody. And then they went to the mount, and here, this is where Moses is going to meet his father-in-law. So this should be the next story in the line of what I'm reading. And then we're going to go up here, and then from there, the story has got to be about Ammon's, or no, this went too fast. Then it's going to be against Moab, and then it's going to be against Ammon's. So that's the order of the text that I should be reading. Okay. Now this should have a map here. So I can get rid of that and put up, oh no, let's put this back up. I forgot to do that. In just a second. Okay. I better make sure I'm not covering my mouth. Okay. Set out for the mounts, which would be on the Jordan side. And set out for the mounts. Yeah, they're going to enter from that side, so it has to be S. The tribes of Israel came to the mount, the land for Esau. Now, this is where when I'm thinking it's right in here is where, no, I have it marked right here. This is where Abraham lived, and then Isaac, and then Israel and Esau. And then Esau came down to, had said, I'm going to start my own place. And it started here, and then he went here. This is the area also where Moses seen the burning bush and talked to our Creator. So, then Wyvie spake to Moses by the hill, by the border, by the hill for their border. By the lands for Amaleks. Aaron is dying, and he will be gathered to his forefathers. Take Aaron and his son Eleazar and bring him to the top. Then remove Aaron's robe and put it on Eleazar. So Moses did just as Wyvie commanded. No, this is wrong here. By the land of Amaleks. So this text is out of order. I was supposed to meet his father-in-law here, and then I'm kind of like, what's happening here? So this has got to be moved. So move up. And I'm going to start having to go like 1A, 1A, because I've got this all coded and encrypted, so you can search like this when you study the text later, that it'll get you there. So this is the hill, and it's got to be before the spies. So I'm going to make this 8 point. Then here, so this has to go here. And this, let's hope that it sews together. So moved up here. And that's how the text is getting put together. Correctly in order. Okay, now where's the text that I got rid of? Right here, so I can close this gap. Okay, now where's the story here? Moses' father. Moses' no, it's not his father. By law, that's by our Creator defining this. By law. Relative by law. That's what I was looking for. So it has to be relative. Oops. 10 point. Relative by law. Raul, his father by law, and I should capitalize that. Well, I'll capitalize all the letters. Well, I also should just do that by law, which means that should be here. Heard of the plagues that Wyvie caused. through Moses for Israelis, and how Yahweh brought them out. No, them is next. And how Yahweh brought out Israel. So these are the plagues. And how Yahweh brought out Israel, and rule went to Moses where he was, for he had camped by their mount. And Moses, so this, by this story is where he actually went. And so when they show you pictures, or the secular world says that he was in Saudi Arabia, no, nobody spoke Hebrew over there. So that's why he ended up marrying Esau's daughter, or a descendant from him. Okay, so, and Moses told him everything Yahweh had done to the Egyptians. The next daylight, Moses sat to judge our people. When Reuel saw this, later he asked them, "Why do you alone sit as judge from morning to evening?" Now this should be a capital J. Do I have? Yeah, I got it here as capital J. From morning to evening. Moses told him, when they have a dispute, they are to come to me, and I will judge them. And by making known to them Yahweh's laws and how they are to act. Reuel replied, "What you are doing is not good for you. Now listen to me and learn from Yahweh. You learned from Yahweh by you bringing their disputes to him." Okay, that's said right. Then taught them is, and it can't be laws, it's got to be commands, because somehow I got to have statutes, commandments, and laws in one word. So I better sum it up as commands. That way, when you search the word commands with all capital letters, you will get this verse here, and it'll be correct by meaning what I just said. But you should select. Okay, this was a gray. This should be gray. Oh, that was a word that was there, and I turned it black. That was the word that they had put there. So it's going to go upright. That was added in the 1977 Bible. But you should select able Levites who fear Yahweh and who hate dishonesty, and place them over them, and let them judge the people. But major disputes they will bring the people to you, and Moses chose Abel to bring them to you. Then Moses chose able Levites and made them judges. And he had to assign them also because of the refuge city. So it just wasn't why he was just talked into it. He knew that he had to set up refuge cities. And so it sounded agreeable with him, because that's what's going to happen soon. Okay. Now, Okay, it goes against Moab. I showed you that. From there, we traveled to the other side of it. That's what happens when you write it in first person, that you're feeling that the text is coming from this guy that experienced it. From there, we traveled to the other side of it. Now, that text that was written there, you got to say that that's close to 3,000 years old right there, that you now know personally. This guy was editing at that time. So when you see different styles of writers, although this text could have been rewrote later to update it, I guess. So maybe I can't say this is the original text itself. From there, we traveled to the other side of it, for the desert becomes the border for Moab and the border for Ammon, to the Jordan and the lake. Now, this mount, see, there's a mount here, and there's a mount here, and there's a mount here. So as it goes down, you can see that the river has divided this. Now, I don't have the map section. I've got to draw that up. But what happens is this land is starting to raise up the mount, and these mounts actually look down on the hill country. So there can't be mountains in Israel, because Moses is going to be sent on this mount to look over the promised land. Then he's going to die up here. But so they passed this mount, and this would be that river dividing. And like I said, they used rivers to divide the lands, so they knew the boundaries. So that's why I can say this is where they were at. And now they're going to talk to this king for Moab. So this needs a map, because we've moved on. Maybe it might be the same map or a smaller section of it. And the border for Ammon's, and yeah, okay, that's what I was going to talk about. This is the Sahara Desert, what we call it today. And when you hear the word wilderness, that is where the land that's described by them, between the desert where there's no life and the difference between when it's all lush green. It's this boundary shows, like there'll be a tree with a little bit of green, like a little island with things growing on, the tree starting to die, and then there'll be sand all around it. So this is what's known as the wilderness, and that is along all this down here. So that's, I put it here. I don't know how far, but because the land comes out this far with the river, this, I said, is theirs. So that's how I determined this path here. At the bottom of the mount to the rivers in the valley is the land for Moab. So that, yeah, that just defines this as well. Then Moses sent messengers to Cheyenne, their ruler. Let us pass through your land. We will not turn off into your fields, and we will not drink water from your wells. We will travel on the highway. So now you know that I've got to add this highway as well on the other side. So travelers, now you know that there's another path here that I have it drawn, but I don't think I really, let me see that map again. Yeah, I do. I have this brown line still showing this, because I'm trying to get them to water. So it might be more straighter. Next time I'll have to do it straighter. Because you can see by the mileage map up here, this is 60 miles wide. So that is a long time without water. So I imagine there would be like a curve here that'll be there, that all of a sudden there'll be a road to go over here. But it's going to be that if you got the water from here, you can now keep traveling. The text dictates a lot. But Shion did not allow Israel to pass through his land, for Shiloh gathered his able men and battled against us. And by the wilderness, here's it is, we fought them, and we killed them with our spears, and took over his land. So you knew that they started on the outside edge to battle them, because that's where the road is going to be. That's probably the wilderness. So if they, maybe the path was in the desert, and then they went up and they come out there, but by the wilderness where they started, and then they overtook his land, and the men from Ammon came to the border, and we battled with Ammons, and we fought against them and overtook their land as far as the rivers. So this is dictating my map that they had to go to this river and then to this river. So some of this is a mount. There is a break here, but it's not like a river of water in the mount going down here. So I'm using this as a guide here to say that the land formation from this high to this high, it would be at the foothills of this area. So that's how I'm dividing that. But from the rivers, well, I know it's Ammon's. Okay. So as we fought against them, we overtook their land, and we killed everyone until there was no one left. Cleaned off the land because men, women, and children and animals. We only find out what this is without it in the text later, of why this is being done. And that is to say that they were unclean. And the polite word for that's a very polite word for unclean. Sex with anything and every animal, men, women, whatever. Think of how bad it's getting now in some places in our country. In some countries are just like that. So this is why they were killed off. Because this land that they're killing them off was just to kill off those unclean people. Later, the land before they're going to go sin, Joshua, I think it's the last instruction Moses gives them, is that I'll let you have this land, but you have to go across to battle with your brothers. As Israel is camped on the mount with the river, see, the river, for Ammon's to the Jordan, dictates the location. And by now, Balak knew what Israel had done. He had a great fear of us, because the men were numerous, for Moab. He most likely thought they can beat them. This also helps to define the size of the army and how many came out of Egypt. Balak said to their leaders, "Now they are all near us, So I sent messengers to Balaam. Now I had to use a capital letter here because our Creator is going to work through him. So this has to be a descendant from Noah's time, most likely from Canaan's people, that our Creator was still, not everybody was a flat out pagan, but the object was he wasn't going to sort them out. That Balaam is going to end up talking to our Creator. So he is a good guy, saying, behold, many people came out of Egypt, and they are camping against us. Please come and curse their people, for they are too mighty for me. Is the word curse correct? I'm going to underline it and do more thinking on that when I come across it again. Perhaps I can defeat them after you curse them. They're too mighty for me. Then perhaps I can defeat them or drive them out from that land. For whom you curse is cursed. I'm trying to use words specifically, and you curse against our Creator. This is not cursing against our Creator. Curse is to say something against them, so to be, no, this is more or less like, I guess I've got to use it because I got it down here. I can't get away from it here. Whom you curse is cursed. And okay, he sent messengers to say, okay. And they went, yep, and they went to Balaam and repeated his words, and he replied, spend the night here, and I will bring words back to you from Wybe. See, our Creator was talking to him, so it's not like there weren't prophets other than just from the promised land. They were still among the people. So this is like a teaching that when you're teaching, you have to understand that there are still good people because our Creator was talking to them, even though they're among the worst of the worst. And Wybe told him, do not go and curse my nation. So Balaam told Ag, I'm using the word curse, I can't get around it. Told him, and curse my nation. So Balaam told Balak's messenger, Wybe has rejected him. And the messengers went to, yeah, I can't say the word his, and the messengers went to, and messengers returned to Balak and said, this has to be returned. More descriptive than the word went. And the messengers returned to Balak and said, he rejects coming to you. And Balak again sent messengers, but they were more distinguished. And they told him thus, says Balak, I beg you to come to me. And Wybe told him, go and only speak the words to him. Only speak my words to him. So Balaam saddled his donkey and went to Balak. When Balak heard that he was coming to him, he went out to meet him. And Balaam told him, I am unable to curse them. For I only able to, I am unable to curse them. Oh, this needs different wording. Balaam told him, I am unable to curse them, unless by wiving. In the morning, Balak took Balaam and brought him to see us. Then Wivey put his words in Balaam's mouth, and he said to Balak, now this would be the Holy Spirit, our Creator just speaking through your mouth. So this has to be it doesn't look right. All capital letters just don't look right to me like that. Okay. How can I curse whom Wivey has blessed? Then Balak said to Balaam, what you have done is for them. And then there's a story the text is missing. Then Wivey spake to Moses by the mounts that were Ammon's. Now that I showed you on the map is the mounts. They're right here. So that's why they're in the territory. They have to be in the territory. I'm going to have to move this line. Well, because if it's the mounts for Ammon's, that means I've got it right. By the mounts that were, okay, yeah, I got it divided right. Speak to Israel when they cross the Jordan into Canaan. They are to remove everyone from the land before them and destroy their idols. Then they will take possession of the land that I have given them to possess. I think I put an E on the end of that last time. So I better go correct that. Should just be a single green letter here. This seems like this might be out of place. So I'm gonna put a big division here. So, but that seems to be zipped together here. Wyvie defines Canaan's land. Is upward past Lake Galilee. Map goes in here. I'll get that out there so when I'm scanning the empty space of the text, I can see that. Past Lake Galilee. Yeah, that's something I was thinking that I knew that was wrong. So this map's got to be made here, and this road's got to be done better. Past that. Okay. Upward past Lake Galilee. And their southern border is the end of the Salty Lake eastward. Eastward. So it's got to be like to the river. But I can't have the Philistines owning land out here. So I'm going to have to curve this. And that area needs correcting too. I'm hoping I'm doing screenshots as well to remind me, what are these about? And then when I see them, it's a little of my better work. Then Wyvie told Moses, your land will be divided for inheritance according to their birth names and according to their camping by me. So I had to put this in here. Took me a long time to figure out the order of their names, and they aren't according to this, except for on the land. In the book, in the text, I had to switch all kinds of names around, knowing that I finally realized what was going on. But I did that like at least 15 years ago. Now, Reuben and Gad had a large number of livestock, so I looked over the land, looked over that land. Over that land, that was Moab's and Ammon's, and it was good for their herds. So they went to Moses. This would be the group, how they got together. So what I should do is now pull up this. Reuben's, Gad, so yeah, I can't remember how I'm doing this. They're all capital letters. Gad. And the half and half of, I better put that map over here so I can make sure I spell it right. Oops, not that one. This one. Half of so Reuben's, Gad's, and half of Manasseh's. Gathered together and went to Moses. Now that's funny because all this time I didn't put that in. I guess I was saving it for this editing, but there was a blank spot. I think I did that on purpose, or put those lines empty. Probably said, well, that's the missing is these names. Got too busy to do it, but you can see that's probably perfect words that go there. And went to Moses and our leaders for the tribes and our leaders. And there's a difference between commanders for the army and leaders. I can't name them elders because that's the older among them. So leaders for the tribes. And they said, the land which Yahweh had us conquer is good land for our livestock. If we are favorable in your sight, let this land be given to us as a possession. And Moses said to Gad's and Reuben, I don't want to go, it's easier to, I think. Boy, I got something going on here with my left hand. I can't believe it's hurt already. Now Moses said to Gads and Romans, will your brothers go to war? That's a question mark. I missed the question mark. Will your brothers go to war? Well, you are here. Why are you discouraging the tribes for Israel? They said, we are armed. Said, we will be armed. They said, we will be armed. To go with our brothers until they have their land. Then return to our homes and families and possess it as our inheritance. Moses said to them, if you will do this until our enemies are out, afterward you can return to live and be free before Yahweh. They told Moses, your servants will do just as Yahweh commands us. Also Moses gave them the land gave them the land, and to the half tribe for East Manasseh. That's how I did East Manasseh as one word. And this should be all capitals. ANASSH with a little letter in front. But the only thing is I can see here that these spaces that I left, there's no story here. So these got to be sewed back together. I thought I was going to run into more of the actual battle of what they did and how far they went. Because when I made the map, I must have had to guess how high they went. Okay. Why command Moses to take Joshua your son and have him stand before Eleazar my highest priest and before the commanders, and in their sight he will have your authority, and all the tribes of Israel are to obey him. Eleazar will ask for him. Will ask for me. And Eleazar will ask for me for a judgment from me. Oh, wait a second. Joshua is supposed to ask Eleazar for him. Yes, I had it right the first time. For him, for a judgment from me, or my commands for Israel. And Moses did just as Wivey commanded him. And he took Joshua and set him before Eleazar and before all the commanders. Then he poured oil on him and anointed him, just as our Creator commanded him. Now this would be replacing these, so I got to get rid of. Oh, wait a second. Okay, there's two there, so to connect this, yeah, get rid of this, and then this text here is going to go with this. So then he poured oil on him and anointed him just as Wivey commanded him. As Israel was camped by the river Jabbok in the valley to the Jordan. So when I bring this over, that's how I got that name right there. And Israel's going to cross over here because otherwise they're going to come down and attack Jericho down here. So I figured they crossed here somewhere because they had to come down. This path would have been the easiest way to get down here. They wouldn't have crossed that little road because they still had to cross that river. They wouldn't have crossed that to cross the bigger river. They're going to cross it once. So that's where I believe Israel crossed the Jordan River. Okay. Oops. I'm going to put the word then. I think I just, when I'm reading it a couple times, it needs to be there. In the Jordan to the, or in the valley to the Jordan. Then Moses spake to the commanders of Israel according to all what I commanded him after defeating the king for the Amorites and Amorites. We were to cross the Jordan from the land that was Ammon's. So that verse here is where I got that location. So I need a map here. The land before you, go in and possess it. The land he swore to give to our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and their descendants after them. We've got the stories from these two. Also told Jacob, but these guys are important here before that they knew these two were talking to our Creator. So for why he brought you out from Egypt to be his own nation. Wivey has told me, I will not cross the Jordan River with you, for I am to die here, so watch over your descendants from forgetting his promises. And that is obeying the commandment to have the agreement that they will always have land for inheritance. For Wivey made a promise with us in the Sinai when he spake to you, you will have no other creator nor worship. You'll have no. Our Creator would not say other, because there is no other. It has to be false. No false creator, nor worshippers serve them, for Wivey is our Creator. You will not say his name worthlessly, for he will punish you. Keep your holy days. 6 days you can labor, then no work. Honor your parents. You will not kill willingly. You will not commit adultery. And I can see that. You will not steal. You will not bear false witness against your neighbor. I want to check this. You are to honor your father and mother. You will not kill willingly. We'll see. This is the order. Oh, that's behind you. Behind me on the screen. You're seeing that. Okay, sorry about that. I was trying to make you see it, and you can't see it anyway. False creator. You are not to make an idol is missing. But that is part of to make idols to worship and serve them. So the words idol is missing here. You will not say his name worthlessly. This is there. That is there. And will punish you, whoever uses my name worthlessly. Then it's, you will keep the holy days. The first days will be holy with me. And you will not do any work. And you'll do no work. You are to honor your father and mother. You are not to kill willingly, nor commit adultery. You will not steal or be a false witness. Those are two. You will not steal. And this goes with this. That needs to be here. Then this. False witness. Although I see why I've grouped it together now. You will not steal. Well, let's see. Commit adultery. You will not steal. You will not bear false witness. So that's in the order. He's added that. So I'm going to get rid of that text. You will not have desire for your neighbors. That is the last, that's the 12th. All this is missing. These are his commandments. And he wrote them himself and gave them to me in stone. In stone, on stone. Yeah, I guess I could live with in stone. So what is the words here that are missing? These are your, oops. These are, what happened? Well, these need to be grouped 1 through 3. These are grouped together, so that's why I've got it this. These, okay. What just happened to my computer? Got the right keyboard. Well, that's bad, because I can't edit, I can't text what I want here. It's gonna, my keyboard go bad here. There it goes. Yep, my keyboard is bad. I really had to slam that. Well, yep. My keep cap has gone. Oh, okay, I'm going to call it an end there. And I've got keyboards, so, but I will know that I have, this is where I left off. But I gotta think of what's going, what's actually gonna go here. Because it's gonna start out these. Well, this has to be, these are his commandments. These you are to obey, to remain in our land. That's how that's going to be. Are to be obeyed. To our land. Oops, the keyboard again changed on me just like that. I lightly touched that with my finger. Okay. All right, that's the end for the day. So save it, and I will see you on the next one. Sorry about that. Right now I'm trying to get the chat board with the notices and stuff that pops up. That's got to be done. What else I got to do? I think I got to chat with Restream if the titles didn't get put up on this stream. So I got a few things that I got to work on. Other than that, have a good evening.